Welcome back to the Restaurant Rockstars podcast. We all have our own restaurant story, where it all began. Mostly it's deeply rooted in passion, vision, and an inspiration for what our place could be, what we want it to be. Well, this episode I'm speaking with Dan and Conor Sullivan, two brothers who left their gigs, corporate America, and had a dream to start a neighborhood pub, a really comfortable, relaxing place. And it's deeply rooted in family history. It's named for their grandfather, and we talk all about what it's like working brothers side by side, staying in your lane, but sharing a vision and sharing best practices and strengths. And it's all about putting the team in place and just creating a successful place in arguably one of the most competitive food cities in America, fast-growing Charlotte. So you're not going to want to miss this episode. You've probably heard me talk about the restaurant profit maximizer. With volatile markets and rising costs of goods and the highest labor costs ever, there's some things that you can do that are immediately actionable that you can boost your bottom line and increase your profit. And I'm teaching you these things in a course called the Profit Maximizer. For less than the cost of a craft beer or a fancy coffee, here's a course that will improve your bottom line. So check that out at restaurantrockstars.com/profit maximizer. Now, on with the episode.
You're tuned in to the Restaurant Rockstars podcast. Powerful ideas to rock your restaurant. Here's your host, Roger Bodwin.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. This is the Restaurant Rockstars podcast. So glad you're here. And Dan and Conor, how are you today? Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Roger. Great to meet you. And we're excited to be on the podcast.
Nice.
Doing great.
Yeah. Brothers speaking to us from Charleston down in the Carolinas. And they are the co-owners and founders of Bumpa's. And first of all, let's talk about Bumpa. Bumpa's your grandfather, right? And he sounds like he was an interesting guy. Tell me about him.
Yeah. So growing up, he's our dad's dad. And we had this larger than life kind of vision of who he was. And one of the sweetest men you'd ever be able to meet. Quick with a story, loved a good stiff drink. And so when we started coming up with our concept, we knew for the pillar of atmosphere, we wanted to make sure it was a place that he would have felt at home, sitting at the bar and sharing his stories and having a good old fashioned.
Yeah. I think we did have some reservations with the name Bumpa's. We're like, is that just going to alienate anyone that doesn't understand what that means right off the bat? But we decided there was a mystique to the nickname itself. And it's actually very surprising how many people have come in to have their own Bumpa. Not only a grandfather they admire, but actually that went by the name Bumpa.
I love it.
The calculated risk paid off.
Yeah, that's great. Quite a Renaissance man from what it seems. He won some illustrious boat race in 1962.
Yeah, he was the oldest man to runner up the Queen's Cup sailing race. So we named a drink in his honor, and we like to think he's up there smiling down and wondering why we did all this in his name.
Yeah, he's lending good energy and positivity to your space and everything you're doing. I'm sure he's very proud. That's awesome. So tell us, you have different backgrounds outside the restaurant business, and you got tired of that, frustrated, call it what it is, but you always had this idea. You guys put your heads together and you've always wanted to own a pub. So who had the idea first and why restaurants?
That was Dan.
It's his fault.
No, I always say, like, we're talking about this in a very abstract way for years and years, maybe certainly the majority of our adult lives. We come together over holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, etc. And Dan would always ask me, like, is this the year we're doing it? Are we doing it next year? And one year the stars aligned and, we decided, wow, why wait? We have the resources. Let's roll the dice.
Excellent. So you had a planning process, I'm sure, and a timeline. I was talking to Dan earlier, and he mentioned that you guys put a business plan together. In retrospect, looking back at that business plan, did it pretty accurately follow the vision of what you wanted to do? And did you take any twists and turns along the way, or did it pretty much come out like what you had in your heads when you decided to do this?
I would say a number of factors made the final draft of the business plan defunct by the time we were ready to open. Chief among those was COVID, of course. The entire industry. So a lot of the numbers that we had that we felt like we could use as a gig measuring stick for the business, we just couldn't use them. We didn't know what the market was going to look like at all. And so we had to do a lot of changing on the fly, as they say, and just rolled with the punches and did the best we could. And we just decided, let's go for it and see where the numbers come out.
Yeah, I will say though, the core concept of how we wanted it to look and feel, and even a lot of the elements of the menu as it is today, 4 years being open, that was all there. So there's there's a shocking amount that actually has made it and is still a core star of the restaurant itself. But yeah, like they said, financially, we kind of throw that playbook out the window, sadly.
So
Yeah.
you started
sorry.
early in 2020 then? Did you actually open your doors before the pandemic hit?
We were scheduled to open April of 2020 and ended up opening in June.
Wow. I remember those times, and so many restaurants literally had to pull all the seats out of their business, and you couldn't serve people sitting down. Different states had different requirements, of course. It's South Carolina, Charleston.
Yep, that's correct.
So what was your state mandates like back then, if you recall? What did you have to do immediately? I remember it was like a light switch going off. It's 1 minute, everything is normal, and then March, it's boom. What's going on here? When no one had any answers, and is this a temporary thing? Is it going to be 2 weeks or is it going to be 2 years? Nobody knew.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Dan just said we were all set to go. We had an opening date. We'd sent invites out for our soft opening. We had people that were going to fly into town. And
Wow.
we had a really hard conversation with our management. Like 2 weeks before the shutdown, we came to the conclusion that we'd have to wait. But to your point, we were like, should we wait to open until this whole thing passes? We had no idea how long COVID was going to be
right
up here. But once we got the green light, restaurants started opening even in limited capacity. Again, it was something we had to figure out on the fly, like Dan said. But yeah, there were occupancy limits. So literally a hard cap on the amount of bodies allowed in the restaurant. Everyone had to be sitting down. Bar service was restricted, and the bar was the whole point of us doing this thing. So yeah, it was
totally
pretty
right.
wild.
Yeah, we had a curfew at night, things of that nature. I always point to two things that really made the difference for us. Obviously, biggest advantage is owning the building. Didn't have a lease that we had to pay hanging over our heads. So our runway to getting open was really just dependent on when we were ready to do that. We were able to pay our management team through the shutdown and gave them a lot of homework. And the idea was when the doors are able to be open, be prepared, have everything ready, know who we're talking to, know where our vendors are, and we can hit the ground running. And I'd say the other thing was we had met a lot of friends in the business, a lot of other bar owners, and never having done this before, we weren't sure how we were going to be received. Is this going to be a rivalry? Are we taking business from people? How does that look? And to a person, everyone said the amount of effort and money that we had put into our place was a good thing for everyone. We're all trying to do the same things. When they started opening back up, we were sharing secrets and sharing
Awesome.
and tricks on how to get through it. And that was just a wonderful resource.
Oh, you're welcomed with open arms. It was a healthy collaboration, not a competition.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. So originally you're from Pittsburgh. What drew you to Charleston and what made that decision? Did you fly down and suddenly say, here's the place we're going to bring our vision to life? Or how did that story go?
But yeah, then this place was first all the way from home for a very long time. Our parents relocated down here 20 years ago.
Just about 20 years.
And I moved around a lot, but it was, again, going back to this master plan of getting us to go into business together. A big part of that was doing it down here, because this is essentially what became home. When we go home for the holidays and be down in the Charleston area, see our parents. and we unite the family again all these years later, and it worked. But yeah, so Charleston was always a really pivotal part of, again, the business plan. It was always Charleston. And here we are, several cities later, several years later. But yeah, it's
I
interesting.
think, as a matter of fact, our first draft of the business plan specifically was what if we put the pin in the map in the French Quarter part of Charleston, never thinking that was a reality. And here we are right there. It's almost like it manifested itself.
Supposed to happen, huh? Yeah.
Very interesting.
It was
found
fate.
Connor found the building.
I want to, yeah, tell me about that story because I'm really interested. I was telling Dan I was on the website looking at the space and it's just beautiful, but he tells me it's a historic property, but it had been neglected. It had been multiple concepts before. It had been closed and you found it. So what jumped out about it and why that location?
Yeah, we knew the building, which helped when it did come onto the market. But yeah, Dan may have mentioned it's a 300-plus-year-old building. Used to be
Unreal. Oh, wow. That's history.
phosphate warehouse. The water line came right up to the building, so ships could offload and load back up before going back out. And
Awesome.
a lot of history right there. But yeah, it had been in several concepts over the last couple of decades, had fallen into a bit of disrepair, needed a lot of love. But yeah, we were still fishing, let's say, for not only the building, but even the neighborhood. We were looking all up and down the Charleston Peninsula. The Dan's part, we never thought we'd wind up in the French Quarter, which is really the most historic part of.
Right.
We were just getting real estate flyers sent to us every day and just pouring through them. And the building, 5 Cumberland, I knew it, stuck right out. And was like, I can't believe this is available for this price to buy. It seemed too good to be true. It's like called Dan. He got down there like an hour later and we were negotiating.
Signing the dotted line, huh?
It was amazing. It was, I had been down here for a year. I say we were the advanced guard.
Vanguard.
Yeah. So I had been down here for a year. Just our brokers were taking us to a different property every week. And I had seen a zillion buildings and everything had something I could spin, but nothing was really quote unquote perfect. And that morning he called me. He said, "You're not going to believe this, but you need to contact this broker right away and see if you can get in here because it'll be gone." And so we called our guys. I said, "No way, it's for sale." And we met the owner and I think he liked this. He's from on.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah,
That helps a lot.
I think he likes
Luck of the Irish there was on your side.
brothers of Irish descent. We're really trying to do something special. And I really do believe that made a difference. I think he had waited a little longer. There could have been a higher price tag on it, but I think he was happy to hand it to somebody that would carry it on and keep it special.
So you mentioned this French Quarter part of Charleston. Is it a vibrant sort of local and tourist draw? It's a lot of traffic, foot traffic, drive-by traffic, high visibility. I'm guessing because that's all a benefit for your business, clearly.
Absolutely. It's the eastern side of the peninsula, almost southeast side of the peninsula. So Broad Street is a major street that sort of leads to East Bay Street. And that's going to be your main street going through the French Quarter. And there are a ton of really terrific restaurants, bars, art galleries, things like that. A lot of both walking and car traffic. And we're just off of East Bay on a little street called Cumberland. We can see the bay from our front door, so we're close to the water. And yeah, we're trying all kinds of different things to pull people away from East Bay and come down our little street. And
Yeah. For being half a block away from the main drag, we are surprisingly tucked away. And especially with the Architectural Review Board in town, there's a lot of deliberate measures taken to keep the city authentic,
As they should. Yeah.
which is awesome. But the point is there's only so much we can do to the front of it in terms of signage.
Yes. The sign ordinances, and it's got to be a certain size and it's got to fit with the character of the town or the neighborhood. Yeah. I've been down that road too. But I'm sure you've made it work.
yeah, we have the largest sign we're allowed to have.
Right down to the millimeter. Like it's as big as it can be.
We've got some colorful tables and chairs out front to
Attract attention.
people know that there's a restaurant down here. And then we've got some beautiful window boxes that we have someone that keeps those up and makes sure that they're always vibrant. So it's, if you get that half block down the street, you'll feel very welcomed. And that's really what we're all about.
Let's talk about your vision for the food and the ambiance. Is it inspired by, say, any Irish pubs, either on the Emerald Isle or ones you've been to? Was that always the idea? It was going to be an Irish pub?
Yes and no. I think when we first started, I think we almost resisted the idea of being fully an Irish pub. I think it's more or less where we landed due to our culture. Even the feel of the building itself, the way we decorated it, got a bunch of black and white photos on the wall and a nice organically driven mishmash of items that adorn the walls. But yeah, I think that influence is clear, even if that's not exactly how we market ourselves. And yeah, we've borrowed from a few favorite establishments from both Pittsburgh as well as Ireland. We have a Scotch egg on the menu, which
I saw that. Yeah.
you find that just anywhere. So
We're the only one in town with a Scotch egg, which is fish and chips. We didn't want to be pigeonholed into bangers and mash and shepherd's pie all the time. We wanted to be able to serve the food that we had come up with. I'd say the French fry piece of our menu, which is a very large section of the menu, is definitely.
I saw that too. Yeah, the fries. That seems like a huge specialty of yours, like multiple ways and all kinds of gravies and different influences on those fries. It's got to be a huge seller.
It is. It's top them how you want, or we've got 4 that we've come up with through the years. In fact, one of our best sellers is named after Connor. We call it the Condor.
Oh, I was wondering why. I saw Condor, but I didn't know why and what the relevance was. Now I know.
Yeah, we were at this place where you can do the same thing. And Connor said, let me do this. Let me pick the toppings. I said, absolutely, go for it. And they were just so delicious. And he said, when we open our place, this is going to be on the menu. And here it is. So sure enough, go.
Yeah, I'm all about interesting, creative, even funky names for menu items. And I see you've done that quite a bit. And you got a drink called the Maureen O'Hara and all kinds of stuff going on. And it just captures the public's imagination and it draws people to certain items that you want to sell. Maybe they're profitable, highly profitable to sell. But either way, it just makes things like really inviting and interesting. So you've done a lot of right things to the concept to make it work. So you're a finance guy, Dan. And I'm curious, are you obviously running the numbers every week? Are there certain KPIs you're looking at? Are you taking inventory and costing out the menu and really dialing in your profit?
Roger, there's a reason I got out of finance.
Oh, you hate numbers. I never want to see a number again. Listen, what would it feel like to lower your operating costs, double your sales, lower staff turnover, create raving fans, and design a menu that literally prints money? Our online restaurant training system will teach you and your staff to rock your restaurant and transform your business. Head on over to restaurantrockstars.com. It'll take you less than 5 minutes to get started. You've got this. Your restaurant menu is your most important and effective marketing tool. Check out TerraSlate. TerraSlate offers waterproof, rip-proof, antimicrobial menus that are easy to clean and last. TerraSlate leads the industry, shipping menus to every state and over 100 countries with a super fast one-day turnaround and free overnight shipping. Try TerraSlate. Your team will love them. Go to terraslate.com. That's TerraSlate.com.
Connor is absolutely the first guru.
No kidding. Okay.
Yeah.
Connor, answer that question. That's interesting. There's a twist there. I wouldn't have expected that. Stay in your lane.
Yeah, so I've got a sales background. I'm still in software sales currently. And yeah, I'm used to managing a business on a spreadsheet. So that part of it came pretty easily.
Good. Somebody's got to do it.
Somebody's got to do it. And I don't know, it's almost like a stress reducer. And every time I look at the numbers, I just feel a little better.
And see, I'm the opposite. Every time I look at the numbers, I start to sweat a little. But it's a terrific division of labor. Connor has such a terrific vision for the big picture. And I tend to gravitate and concentrate more on day to day and maintaining the quality of the atmosphere. And I think in that way, we really work terrifically together, and you trust no one more than you trust your own brother. So it's great that we're in this together and we can rely on each other.
And most of the time you agree or agree to disagree. And how do you resolve any issues where, nah, I think we should do this. Now we should do that. Does that ever happen?
Yeah, yeah. I think generally we agree. Sometimes the disagreements can feel bigger, even if they're fewer and further between. I always like to say we have a safety word. Things are getting too heated.
Yeah.
One of us drops the safety word. Okay, nothing's worth this fight. We got to just back off, breathe, come at it. Maybe
After a few Guinnesses,
I was going to say,
your ideas become very precious to you, and you don't want to lose them. But over 4 years of doing this, something that we always parrot to each other is no pride of authorship. As long as the message or the idea is coming from us as a unified ownership team, that's all that matters. And when we first started, I think I was a little bit of a nightmare. I think I was micromanaging things and not letting people do the things that we hired them to do. And it was a big learning for me to be able to be wrong and hear out somebody else. And yeah, I think these things are rare, but we do it very well, I think.
yeah, yeah. Our general manager, her name's Corey Schaff, and she likes to say you got to put your aces in their places and trust them to do their job. And yeah, I think maybe it took a little while to relinquish some of that control, but I think we're happier though that we have.
did you find her right off the bat? Has she been with you since the start of the business, or you guys did a lot on your own and you just suddenly said, hey, our bandwidth is like shrunk and we need to find someone to help us run this business? Like, where did that decision come from?
So she joined us about a week after we had opened. We had a bar manager. They moved on to do something else pretty much right away. So we hired her as the bar manager. She had done that before for years, and she's very familiar with all of our vendors. And eventually, after a couple of years of her doing that, we could tell her ideas were both terrific, and more we came to rely on her to lead whatever effort we were putting forth. And
Yeah, key hire.
so about 2 years ago, we said, why don't you take over the GM ship and
Big job.
the big job? And I'm still there pretty much every day, but I'm not having to actively manage the situation. I'm there. I can walk around, touch tables. The two of us, Corey and I, work really well together on different things. So it's nice. She's meant to do this. She's a terrific person and
Great leader.
great leader. Yeah, absolutely.
That's the magic word right there. Lead by example, recognize talent, develop that talent, move people up, inspire people. That's what's going to lower your turnover or keep your team growing forward. And that's fantastic. I'm glad you mentioned that, because everyone needs those key people that run the business as if they owned that business and had to pay for it themselves. And that's such a rare thing to find. But when you have someone like that in your business, you never want to let them go, because you just get out of their way. You trust their vision, you trust their judgment, and they build your business. And boy, there's so much pride that goes into that. And it's also a collaboration, but I think that's true. That's terrific.
Oh,
What's,
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
that's how it is.
yeah.
That's awesome. So what's made the biggest difference in your success? You survived the pandemic. It's like you've approached this with a business standpoint in mind. You've hired key people to help you move that business down the road, but you're in a competitive food city. And granted, you're in a very busy, high traffic neighborhood, but is there any specific things that you're doing that you would consider to be a competitive advantage or a real draw? I'm a big believer in hooks. What makes your business stand out, make it unique, make it capture the guest's imagination, that sort of thing? Is it a combination of all those things? I don't want to answer for you.
Yeah, I think a lot of the combinations from a business standpoint, as I said before, owning the building that already puts us on a much it gives us a huge advantage in terms of not having a lease and a landlord to answer to.
Yes.
That sort of baked in. But I think what makes Bumpa special, and this will go back to the people as well, but our voice is very specifically cultivated.
Mhm.
You mentioned you read the menu, you get it. There's a sense of humor behind
Yes.
and the little stories that we put in about Bumpa.
hmm
So
Yes.
we've passed that on to our employees, many of which have been with us for years now. And so when people come in, there's an instant feel of atmosphere, this sort of tongue in cheek, very fun, very comfortable place. We're not going to try to turn the table quickly. We want you to stay there as long as you'd like and have a drink and watch some sports or whatever, listen to live music. So I think it's the atmosphere.
Yeah, the vibe. It's definitely got a vibe. You walk in the door and it's inclusive and you feel like you belong. And I'm sure let's talk about the service because you obviously have people that have been with you for years, like you mentioned, and they understand the culture and they understand hospitality. And I'm sure you want to deliver amazing service to each and every guest because whether they're tourists or locals alike, you want to treat everyone like they're the most important person in the place because in the age of online reviews and just as a point of pride, that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. 100%. That's, and again, I'll go back to the business plan.
Yeah.
The number one tenet is just to treat everyone with respect. Your peers, your coworkers, your guests. Yeah, it's got to be copacetic all the time. To your point, one of my favorite things that has happened more times than I can count now is we'll have some folks come in for a lunch one day, and then we'll see them back late at night, and then again the next day, and they've just ingratiated themselves. They're in town for 3 days. They'll come spend time with us each of those 3 days, and they'll ask for bartenders by name, and just seeing that here on the back of my neck standing up, it's a really special feeling.
You
It
got a
is.
regular sitting at a bar stool that's called Norm.
We have regulars. We have a huge industry following, which is that's the biggest compliment I think we could receive is when the folks get out of work
They come to your place.
come to our place. We're open just a little bit later. Our kitchen's open a little later. So they can come in, they know they can have a drink, they can have a bite to eat, and they're in a space with like-minded people. And that's a huge compliment. We've been called the Cheers of Charleston a couple times, and I think we lean into that. And we do two things. When you walk in the door, whoever's greeting you for the first time, you always get a welcome to Bumpa's. And then our bartenders will not start a tab without getting your name first, and usually a handshake along with it.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's
Personal service. Yeah.
and then we have a bartender named Neil. He's worked in this building as a bartender for decades, and people come in after a year, and he'll remember who they are,
Love that.
And they'll remember him.
they remember him. Absolutely.
I notice you've got quite a few craft beers or the tap handles. There's 10 or 12 or so, which is awesome. Do you guys have a mug club?
We don't. It's something we've talked about, and now that you brought that up, we haven't talked about it in a minute, but yeah, we have 14 taps. Everything's going to be local or regional except for the Guinness and the High Life.
Yep.
Yeah, that is something we've discussed, but we'll have to revisit that.
Yeah.
Forgotten about that one.
No, we can talk about it after the podcast. I can help you with that.
Longer.
What about marketing? Do you have to spend much on marketing and the things you do? Are they trackable? Are there influencers in the community? Like you just mentioned, like all the employees that got out of work, they must be brand ambassadors saying, hey, go to this place as opposed to maybe where they work.
Yeah, especially when we first opened, we did not have a budget for marketing or PR or anything. So that kind of word of mouth support of our industry friends was critical. Gave us a good boost of business right out the gate. As we've matured a little bit, we have budgeted for marketing and PR, and we use a local firm here, and they've been fantastic partners for us and pretty good showing ROI as well. It's Dan and I aren't great social media creators, but they are, and they can point to certain posts that drive so much attention and can even point to some actual tangible bottom line results, which is just fantastic. So I think it took us a while to get there. It took us a while to, again, be able to afford that budget because an expensive part of our business. But
No question.
I think it's very worth it.
Excellent.
If there was a question about whether or not this is worth it, I think we would have by now probably shut that down. These ladies are just aggressive in a positive way. They stay on top of us when they need deliverables from us.
Mhm.
And some of the little social media things, the Instagram stuff that they've put out has gotten just a wild amount of views. So it's stuff we don't know how to do. We're really not good at self-promotion, but they've done such a terrific job for us, and we can see the increased body coming into the building. So it's been a terrific partnership.
Excellent. They got my attention, and here you are.
Wow. Yeah, there you have it.
That's right.
Let's talk about the building again. Is it a one-story standalone, or are there apartments upstairs, or are there any other spaces that you, as an additional profit center?
Just one standalone building, pretty much a zero lot line. So where the wall ends, that's it for us. It looks like an old warehouse. It looks like it did in the 1800s. You can actually find it on really old maps from the 1800s, which is really neat. But it's got a lot of character. Big, large ceiling that we were able to reveal. The beautiful copper roof on top. It was
that's nice.
Cool space.
Yeah, and it's only about 3,000 square feet. Again, we may have gotten the building for a song, but with the understanding a lot of work was going to have to be done. So
Certainly.
there's good and bad in that. Obviously, there were a lot of growing pains. Even though it was a restaurant, a lot of work had to be done for the kitchen and HVAC system, grease trap. Good Lord. But the good part of that is, to Dan's point, zero lot line, no room to spare. We accounted for every single square inch of that space. We debate over literal quarter inches behind the bar or in the kitchen. And so it's amazing to be able to optimize. It's a long road. It's hard.
How many seats do you have?
Our tenured kitchen staff are used to it now, but new people, how do you do this in this space? And yeah, it's really is. We have to be efficient and mindful of how we store, how we prep, how we order, because there's not a lot of extra space to hide things.
That's a good thing in many ways too, because it keeps you efficient, right?
Yeah.
It keeps you on top of your game, all those things, and you got dialed in. Storage is an issue in my businesses as well. Yeah, you got to operate with the resources you have, but I think it makes you stronger overall. That's terrific. How about retail? You guys sell any retail merchandise? My restaurant sold tons of fried foods, but what a hassle dealing with the fryer oil and cleaning hoods from all that grease. Restaurant Technologies handles everything end to end. They deliver, filter, monitor, collect, and recycle your waste cooking oil. Their AutoMist system reduces the fire risk with automated hood and flue cleaning, hassle-free. As a customer, you'll save 10 to 15% on insurance premiums and even get bonuses for new customer referrals. Go to rti-inc.com or call 866-399-3639 to get started. I know from my experience that growing your business can mean big-time logistical challenges, like how are we going to keep up with all these local deliveries? Believe me, when I owned restaurants, this was a challenge for me. Let Uber Direct offer you a helping hand. With Uber Direct, you take orders on your website, app, or by phone. Then, drivers from Uber's courier network pick them up at your place and deliver them right to your customer's door. Sounds simple, right? Delivery just got better with Uber Direct. Learn more at uberdirect.com.
Yep, we've got hats and shirts. Sell them to a lot of those Bumpas that Conor mentioned. We've got a whole wall full of black and white photos. Some of those are our family, but most of them now are other people's grandparents or family members that had that sort of same relationship. One of those black and white photos is a family reunion. They call their grandfather Bumpa, and they surprised them for the family photo. They all came out in t-shirts with his name on it. And it's just neat to see that up on the wall. It feels like we're still connected to those folks in some way.
Yeah.
Bet you have a hell of a St. Patty's Day party.
It's always the biggest time of year. We call it our Christmas. Yeah. The elves all have to be there and have to be ready. And yeah, banana.
Yeah, it's pretty insane.
I can only imagine. I remember those days. Do you do any other theme events or parties on other either holidays or just out of the blue? You create events. Do you do any of that?
We have a new thing that we're doing. It's called Third Thursday, and it's a play on, what is it, second Sunday up on King Street?
Yeah, that's right.
So King Street, they'll close down King Street. It's a few blocks away from us, and people can walk on the road, and local vendors can go out and sell their crafts and what have you. And our GM Corey came up with this idea: why don't we have a Third Thursday where we'll have a drink sponsor and local artisans can set
Right.
up only during a couple hours during happy hour. So it's minimal impact to us, but it also gets eyes on different business people in our town. And it's a fun way to get locals to connect with different folks, and live music happening during that. And yeah, that's our newest venture. I really enjoy
Yeah, it
it.
just makes the business fun for the guests and for your team and gives people things to look forward to and their marketing events. I think that makes a lot of sense. I'm glad you're doing those things too. What about, we were talking finances a little while ago. How has inflation hit your business and rising costs and volatile cost of goods markets and all that kind of stuff? Have you had to change the menu much or raise prices much or change ingredients much? What have you done there?
Good question. I think that word volatility is the most frustrating part of it, especially coming out of COVID and the supply chain still
Right.
so very messed up.
Yes,
It's,
for
you
sure.
know, every week there was either a shortage or something spiked 100% in price. And yeah, we do some planings, some bob and weed with the menu. But you can't really change a cheeseburger too much. Like, got to bite the bullet and buy the beef. So yeah, sometimes we're stuck, but trying to account for it and forecast for it is still been a real challenge, I think. We know what to look out for, and there's certain times of the year, certainly certain times that we can expect more revenue, but yeah, it's still, it can be very lumpy, which is this is tough to account for.
Yeah. And you still have to, like you said, offer value and not lose that value for the customer because there's only so much that they're willing to pay and there is a ceiling to things. And that's when you got to get really creative. Awesome.
We are a cheaper option in the neighborhood too,
Mhm.
that really want to.
Maintain that reputation and offer quality at a reasonable price so that everyone can come in and not feel, like you can't go to Bumpa's because, all right.
Not so much.
How about staffing? You've got some great people, it sounds, but has this whole labor crisis thing affected you at all since the pandemic? Or are you doing pretty well?
It did for, I would say about 2 years ago, we would talk daily. I described it as a waking nightmare because we would get there in the morning and you just didn't know who was going to be able to come in and cook and do the job. And then the schedule was just, it almost didn't matter. People would come in for a day and then leave because either they didn't enjoy it or somewhere else was offering a higher wage, what have you. We've had to get more competitive with how we pay our kitchen, and whether that's the reason or not, we've been able to keep a great deal of our staff. We've thought to plug holes here and there, but I'd say for the most part, we've got some real key people that we very much count on day to day. And, they've come through and they've been consistent, accountable. But yeah, 2 years ago, you just get enough.
Yeah, early days was tough, but I haven't thought about this in a while, but there was quite a long stretch of time where we had one server. And then you're looking at the other two.
Yeah.
That was tiring, to say the least.
And we're not good service. If you give me more than 2 tables, I'm in trouble. I'm in the weeds.
But you probably still see some of those people that you served and you made it fun for them and they came back anyway because they were pulling for you.
We definitely do. And it's always great to see those familiar faces. And now the following is really there too, because they like the servers that have been there for a couple of years now. And that's, to me, that's more gratifying than seeing me. I think it's terrific when we have servers that have made a connection with folks. And that's one of the reasons they come back in.
That's fantastic. Any plans to open another location or another restaurant?
We'd love to. That's always been the goal. And I think the biggest question is, do we do a second Bumpa's or do we come up with a whole new different concept? These are exciting conversations that we have behind the scenes.
Yep.
Not ready yet. I just had my first kid. Dan has 2 daughters.
Congrats.
Bumpa's feels like another child a lot of the times.
Oh, yeah, I get that. You've done a lot of things right.
About place number 2. And for many different reasons, we're not there yet. But yeah, it's still something we'd like to make work and make a career out of. And there's nothing more fun than getting to work with your brother on it. So
that's terrific. Yeah, that's fantastic. Like I said, you have done quite a few things. It's very gratifying to you to watch your vision come to life and for it to be successful and to work together with your brother. It's a family business. I'm sure you treat your team like family and your guests as well. And yeah, that's also satisfying. And it is a business of relationships, pride, and passion. And that came through in this episode. So thanks for being great guests.
Thank you.
That was the Restaurant Rockstars podcast. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks to our sponsors of this week's episode. We can't wait to see you all in the next one. So stay tuned and stay well. Restaurant Equippers has served independent food service operators nearly 60 years. They have low everyday prices and huge warehouse stores in Ohio, Michigan, and New Jersey. Shop for your restaurant equipment at equippers.com or call 800-235-3325. Their experienced specialists are standing by with thousands of name brand products available for immediate store pickup or shipment. Restaurant Equippers is a family-owned business just like yours. Give them a call for all your equipment and supply needs or visit them at equippers.com.
Thanks for listening to the Restaurant Rockstars podcast. For lots of great resources, head over to restaurantrockstars.com. See you next time.